In this video, we will take a close look at the center scheduling section. Since this is where all the action takes place and you'll be spending most of your time there, it's important that you have a thorough understanding of all the buttons, symbols, colors, etc. in this section. Let's start at the very top. This is where you enter your store hours. Your store hours are those hours that you open to the general public, not the time that your employees report to work. To make a change in that area, click on the particular day and then either the open and closing time. You'll be presented with a drop-down box. Click on the drop-down arrow and then you can select the appropriate time for your restaurant. Repeat this procedure for each opening and closing time for each day of the week. Once the opening and closing hours have been set, you should not have to change them unless they change seasonally. The next area is the area that we call the tracking area. In this area, we track openers and closers as well as breakfast, lunch, and dinner workers. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner dayparts are defined for tracking purposes in the setup. We will discuss the setup in a future video. The blue area below is an area where you can optionally enter comments. The comments can serve as reminders that there is something happening today that affects the store's business. Tour bus at 2. Below that area are the days of the week. In this particular restaurant, the first day of the week is a Monday. If yours is different, it is quite easy to change. Go to the Scheduling tab and select the day of the week from the drop-down menu that corresponds with the day of the week for your company. The next area contains the date for this particular work schedule, which happens to be 5/4/2015. Next, we work our way to the employees. The employees are each allowed 3 lines on the weekly work schedule: an in time, an out time, as well as an area where you can enter any comment you wish regarding that particular worker for that particular day. As you can see here, William will be training a new hire on Monday. You'll also notice that William has an in time which is green. A green time means that this particular person is coming to work prior to the doors being open to the general public. Since the store on Monday opens at 6 a.m. and William arrives at 5 a.m., William is considered an opener, and he's being counted in the tracking area above as an opener. Turning the color green serves as a visual clue to you that you have scheduled an opener. You'll also notice that other workers, their closing time is red. Again, this is just a visual clue indicating that you've scheduled a closer, and that particular person will be counted as a closer in the tracking area. We also see some other symbols by the name. Above William's name, you'll notice a folder. This particular folder is green, and it could also be red or yellow. As you see below, Sally's is red and Jeff's is yellow. These folders have to do with employee profiles. A profile is a way for you to notify the program that this particular worker has some restrictions on his work schedule. Perhaps this worker cannot work before 7 a.m. Perhaps this worker cannot work past 4 p.m. Using a profile will prevent you from scheduling this person incorrectly. When the profile folder is green, that means there is currently not a restriction on this particular worker. When the profile folder is red, that means a profile is in place and is active. When a profile folder is yellow, as you can see with Jeff, that means a profile has been set up, but that profile currently has been turned off. Perhaps seasonally, Jeff does not have any restrictions on his schedule, so we can turn the profile off without deleting it. Later in the year, if that profile is required again, we just make it active once again. These folders are also clickable. If you click on a green folder and there is no profile set up, the program will ask you if you'd like to go to the setup area for this particular employee to set up a profile. If a profile is active, such as a red profile, you can click on the folder and you'll be shown the profile below the employee timeline in the comments area. Click it again and those comments will be returned. This is a quick way for you to see an employee profile without actually having to go into the data manager where the profile is contained. We will discuss setting up employee profiles in the video dealing with the data manager. You will also notice some symbols below their name, such as a ribbon and a medal. If there is a ribbon, that means that worker has been trained to work the front of the house. If there is a metal, that means that worker has been trained to work the back of the house. Should you see both, that indicates the worker has been cross-trained and can work both front of the house and back of the house. You'll also notice these lock buttons. These lock buttons can lock the time for this particular worker to the timeline. When you click the button, the lock closes and turns red. Now, when you clear the schedule to start a new schedule, this particular worker and any worker whose hours have been locked to the timeline will not clear. Rather than having to re-enter them, simply lock the time to the timeline and you won't have to enter them on the new schedule. This can be a real time saver for workers who work the same schedule every week, so don't hesitate to use that functionality. You will also notice these blue buttons. These blue buttons are below the total area for the employee. These blue buttons deal with employee paid and unpaid breaks. Some restaurants do not pay for their breaks. The blue buttons are a way for you to override the fact that this particular employee is not being paid for his or her break. By pushing the blue button, the time will be added back in to that employee's time for that particular day. We will discuss the use of this blue button in more detail in the video detailing how to actually schedule hours on the schedule. You will also notice some other symbols such as this yellow stop sign. This is a visual clue indicating that you have violated an employee profile. Let's see what the violation is. I'll click on the red folder to show me what the profile is all about. And you can see here, this particular worker can only work from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. This worker is scheduled until 7 p.m., which is later than the 4 p.m. time. This indicates that there is a violation of the employee profile. When we do an audit later of the schedule, this will be flagged, and you will be given the opportunity to correct this. However, by showing you this symbol as you schedule, we call that real-time flags, you can correct this before the auditor has a chance to flag it later on. Notice now when I change this time to 4 p.m., the symbol goes away and all is well. You can see there are additional violations that need to be corrected. These real-time symbols can be turned on and off in the Program Options area in the Setup section, which is discussed in a separate video. Finally, let's take a look at this column over here called Split Shift. The weekly work scheduler allows for you to have an employee work more than once during a given day. Here's an example. Brad is scheduled to work on Monday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., as well as from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. His total hours for the week, since this is the only day he has been scheduled, tally together at 7.5 hours. Now, how did Brad become a split shift employee and show up twice? I bet you've already figured it out. Please be aware that there are two caveats before you can actually turn an employee into a split shift employee. One, the employee must be on an odd-numbered space on the schedule, and two, the space directly below that employee must be available. If those two conditions are met, simply click the button and watch the magic happen. Renee is now a split shift employee and she can be scheduled twice in a single day. Should you wish to remove Renee as a split shift employee, simply uncheck the box, but be careful. If you have hours scheduled on the second half of that employee, those hours will be deleted as well. You will be asked if you'd like to remove this split employee. I'll say yes, and the employee has been returned back to a regular employee. So that pretty much wraps it up. We've discussed quite a few things here. We've discussed the opening and closing time. We've talked about where the employee tracking area is, as well as the blue comments area, the days of the week, the dates of the schedule, as well as the symbols such as availability folders, the training symbols for frontline and backline, the time lock buttons, as well as the in and out time and employee comments area, such as training a new hire, and also the real-time violation flags, such as this yellow symbol right here. Finally, we discussed the split shift area where you can set up an employee as both a regular and a split employee.